It's good that I'm the last one because I have no slides to show you.
Wonderful.
I hope we do it with more discussion. Let me just tell a few things about Zoover. It will not take too long. Well, I have been asked several times in the past months with some insistency from hoteliers, but also other places in tourism. What is the difference between Zoover and TripAdvisor? So I may introduce Zoover by saying what the differences are, but in really there are no big difference in terms of Zoover is a site, holiday review site as TripAdvisor. We're much smaller, much smaller. I mean, the figures that Roberto showed for unique visitors in a month, we have in Italy in 1 year. But the nice thing about Zoover in that case is that it's a Dutch site. It's #1 in Holland, and you know how important Dutch tourism is for Italy. And there's a big potential. So we will discover it in the next minutes together. Yeah, that's it, actually. Thank you.
Well, so I see that there are a few questions. Well, the first question usually has to do with one of the main issues in this area, which is trust. And you build trust. There are several ways of building trust. One is the TripAdvisor way, which is building trust by having the widest possible number of people contributing. One is using focused reviews. I want to ask you, what is your view? Your 3 minutes each. I mean, something. Yeah.
Does the microphone work? No? Hello?
Possiamo avere un po' di audio su tutti?
Am I online now?
You're online now.
Okay. Well, trust is one of the biggest issues in user-generated content. You can create trust by having a brand like TripAdvisor where people really feel that they are in an unbiased environment. I think that is very crucial. You know, we're highly recommended not being an OTA. That's not what we are. We do not sell any products. That's why people trust TripAdvisor. They trust what they read, and they obviously trust the history we have been creating in the past 12 years of business. It's a highly trusted environment at the end of the day. They know that you can find fellow travelers that have been to similar destinations, that have similar interests. And people nowadays, you know, you don't be afraid of user-generated content because people out there aren't stupid. They will select when they read. We know that statistically people read about 3 pages of reviews on our site. And people will select the reviews they find interesting, even if they're negative. Don't be scared of the negative sides of business. It's the truth. Just as our slogan says, get the truth and then go. The truth is there. And people can select what they want to find and what they want to trust when they read. You can tap into, you know, our social network. You can invite people on Facebook to read your own reviews. So you can your own social network, your own little small world, just as it used to be maybe 20 years ago when you come back from a nice travel experience. You'd be out there saying to your neighbors, to your family, hey, I went to this great hotel. It was fantastic. Go there as well if you're going on holiday. Now you do it to the whole world.
Tell me.
That from our vantage point, we have professional journalists who have pedigrees. We share what their pedigrees and their backgrounds are. Then they will have 40, 50, 60, 100 reviews to their credit. And our users are becoming trustful of that particular reporter's talent if we feel that so it's also possible to match reporter talent to the optimum hotels for their view. So I'd say that the trust is built just from the consistency of the experience users have after they travel on the recommendation of a given reporter, and we get user comments.
I have just a curiosity, but which is part of the bad questions. In a world where which is pushing so hard towards user-generated content, don't you think to have done a little bit step back by proposing reviews well written by journalists and well seen? And the second question is, how biased are these reviews? Because, I mean, if you send someone without telling anyone who he is, and then he has his own experience and then reports his mind, but if you go there and say, well, I'm here to do a review, how are you treated? I feel you're treated in a slightly different way than the usual tourists.
Well, we don't see it as a step backwards because there are trusted travel advisors for many, many, many years. Fodor and Frommer and the New York Times, and again, looking at it from a U.S. vantage point. And the need now with today's technology is that we can put hundreds of photographs up in support of our reviews. And I'd say that what makes Oyster fresh in today is that that these reviews are accompanied by so many great photos, and that makes it a real preview for the traveler. Now, the bias or a lack of bias is achieved by having 20-plus reporters bring their work back to a team of editors who are looking for a consistent voice and to avoid bias, and specifically write bias out of reviews if they see it. And it's possible that a reporter will come back with a strong opinion because they had one bad moment. But we avoid that through the editing process.
Thank you. Michele, trust. I've seen a few minutes ago someone speaking of crowd filtering and something like that, which is, do you think that having tons of reviews can help people in some way on both sides? I mean, because we're often looking at people from the demand side. Sorry, I live in an economic faculty, even if I'm not an economist. So, I mean, from the tourist point of view. But this can help much also the hotelier.
Well, it's way before saying about what is the authority of user-generated content in terms of source, TripAdvisor, or Oyster. And I think it's not a matter of the information source, so the brand, like TripAdvisor, Oyster, Zoover, but it's a matter of the content. The users are not stupid. They can add value to a content, and they realize through the content itself if it's something trustful or not. And of course, if I can find a lot of trustful content on a site like TripAdvisor, but also Oyster or Zoover, then it reflects on the brand. And as well, I'm going to add this source of information to my preferred. But anyway, the users in the web are not just taking one source of information. That's why, for example, we can sit here and be friends with Roberto. There is no, like we are not competitor in that sense, because a user is like checking from 5 up to 22 different sources of information before making their decision.